CISSP Domain 8 Secure Software Development. This domain um, promotes the idea of baked in security. So, if you are developing an application in an organization, so security should not be an afterthought, rather, it should be implemented right from the beginning. So, this domain has two parts. One is the secure software development, and two is the database management. So, in the secure software development, it will um, it talks about the SDLC, software development life cycle. If you're preparing for the exam, you should be very well aware of all the phases of SDLC. And from all the questions that I have practiced, many a times it gives you a scenario and you have to identify which phase of SDLC this is falling in. So be aware of all the phases. Uh, Second is the SLC. SLC and SDLC both are same, but SDLC has 9 phases, whereas SLC has 7 phases. The last two phases are not in the of SDLC are not in SLC. So have a fair understanding of it and what is done at the each phase of SDLC. Then have a good understanding of the methodologies like waterfall, agile, DevOps. So, waterfall is where you cannot go back to the previous state. The then agile also is further categorized into two sprint and scrum master. And DevOps, there is DevSecOps, there is so have a fair understanding of all the methodology and how they function. There is also CMM, capability maturity model. So it's an iterative model. So many a times it will ask you questions on which stage of the model it is in. So you have to know what repeatable stage does, what defined stage does, what optimized stage does. So yeah, in the SDLC there is also certification and accreditation. Know the difference between accreditation and certification. And lastly, the operations and disposal. So we have spoken about SDLC, we have spoken about SLC, we have spoken about maturity model. The next part is the secure programming practices. For example, input validation or session management or poly instantiation. So, the practices for a secure coding followed, you should be well aware of it. And lastly, in this part is the attacks that are carried out due to weak application development, uh, cross-site, all OWASP top 10, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, SCRF, cross-site request forgery, forward channel, backdoor traps, uh, TOC, TOU, and all the attack types and how they are carried out. And yeah, many a times you will be quizzed on the the nature of the attack, and you have to guess what has occurred and what the control measures should be taken in case it has occurred. So as a security consultant, also you should be aware of it. Then comes the second part of the domain, which is database. So again, this is divided into two. One is the components of the database, and second is the integrity of the database, maintaining the integrity of the database, and lastly, the attack uh, due to weak database integrity. So the component of database where it will talk about the tuples, the rows, the fields, the primary and foreign key, and have a fair understanding um, of the components of the DBMS. Um, then comes the integrity of the database, the asset property, the atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. So you should be well aware of all the four properties of database integrity. And many a times you will be given a scenario where you have to identify which component is compromised. Let's say a transaction has occurred, but it was not reflected in the database. So what should be the next step? So have a fair understanding of asset property, and lastly, the database related attack, like SQL injection and other the database type of attack. So yeah, this is very important domain in terms of application security. If you are working as a pen tester or an AppSec uh, application security, and you have worked on CI/CD pipeline or on the SAST and DAST tool, then this domain is not big of a game. And if you're not from that background too, these things are not very difficult to understand. It's if you have a fair understanding of how the attack happens, then it's not big of a challenge. So yeah, this is it. Secure software development. Thank you.